し生まれ変わったらその時はさ
Hello loves, welcome back to another video. I'm feeling good. Are you feeling good? I really had a better day today. Again, I don't know what it was. The only thing that was kind of off is that now I have a rash because of the shorts I was wearing and because I was running around during practice and I was super sweaty. But that is all fine. I'm going to put some gel on it after this, and yeah. The wind is just perfect. It's blowing in the trees behind me in my backyard, or like behind the fence to my backyard. And I haven't really heard any cars. I'm not gonna jinx that, but yeah. So this one was requested a long time ago. The person who actually requested this fan fiction, I don't know if their name is still this, but when I took the screenshot, their name was Akuma Mayu. Or Akuma Mayo, but I think it's Mayu. So yeah, without further ado, this one is called 1 Week, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail. But without further ado, let's get into the video. You are a third year at Kunigigaoka Junior High. You are a fairly good student in C class and a journalist for the school paper. Nothing was more important to you than school and the paper, so how in the hell did you manage to get yourself tangled up in some gross romantic relationship? Throughout your year, rumors were going around at how 3E had some wizard of a teacher helping them out. A teacher that actually cared, and that's how they were scoring high on the tests. You wanted to explore this rumor to see if it was true. Of course, like any good journalist, you would only be taking the facts. You would not be lying about anything you hear. At least, that's what you thought. Let's start at the beginning. Well, since I'm the narrator, I suppose I can start off anywhere in the story. However, for you to fully understand the mess you got into, I'll have to travel back to the beginning of the week, Monday. Hey, Mayura, do you think you could sketch a new cover for the paper? You asked Mayura, the artist on your team. Yeah, I think I can work something out. What did you have in mind? She responded, looking up from her work. You tapped your chin and thought for a moment. Then an invisible light bulb appeared above your head. You know, the gossip going around about Asano and that one kid from 3E? Yeah, what about it? Mayura tilted her head to the side and looked at you with her piercing green eyes. Well, you paused, thinking it might sound weird if you were to ask her to sketch a picture of them about to fight with pencils. Never mind. I'll figure something out later. I just think our old cover is getting too, old. She smiled at you. Yeah, you sighed out. Yeah, sure, no problem. Just let me know by Friday so I can work on it during the weekend, she replied, going back to what she was working on. Okay, you said, scribbling another idea for your column. You needed to come up with something fast, and because you had to publish the column Friday, it did not give you much time, especially because it needed to go through editing, then fine printing, and finally published. So technically, this only gave you until Wednesday. You continued thinking of an idea all day, and you continuously crumbled them up minutes after writing them down. You just couldn't think of anything interesting. Needless to say, you were stumped. Maybe you could just make something up. Your best friend Adeline, who also happened to be on your school paper team, suggested. No way, you shouted, gaining listening ears. Come on, let's go to lunch hall. You drug Adeline away and began brainstorming ideas, or at least trying to. You knew you had an assembly to go to and that you could not stay long in the lunchroom, so you decided to grab your food and eat on your way towards the gym. You needed to be quick and sneaky, so you and Adeline shoved the food up your mouths and threw the garbage away as soon as possible. When you walked into the gym, there were many classes lined up already. As always, it went from A to E, and so you knew you had to pass the students everyone called delinquents. Honestly, everyone knew what they were doing was wrong. They just were too scared to really speak out. If they did, they'd end up in that same class, being ineligible to go to the high school of their dreams. Adeline scurried past the group of students without sparing them a glance, and you knew you should have done the same. You should have just followed in her footsteps, but for whatever reason, that was the exact opposite of what you did. You stopped in your tracks and looked at the mysterious class. You were in fact really only looking for their teacher, but for some reason it seemed he or she was not present. You looked at each of the students as you passed, and 3 in particular caught your eye. 2 were 2 girls waving their knife holders. They looked really pretty, though you did not understand why, and the second was a boy who had black hair with long bangs that covered his eyes. His bangs marked off a part of his vision like a gun sight. You could tell he had an intense gaze that made others uncomfortable, but in your opinion, it was kind of hot. It was probably because of his bangs that you did not know he was watching you, but throughout your time gazing at this complete stranger, you figured it must have looked weird that you were just watching someone. Someone so casually looking, someone in the E-class, someone who could get you into trouble if you were ever seen saying something as simple as the word hello to. You ran over to your line and met up with Adeline. You glanced a couple of times back over to the class, and that's when you caught the eye of a very fine man. Tall, black hair, strong, probably athletic, but definitely the dense type. "Hey, Wyan, pay attention." Adeline caught your stare. "Right," you said. Though you could not stop thinking about 3E, you thought, I mean, is that the wizard teacher everyone is talking about? He is one fine specimen, but what does he have other than that other teachers don't? Does he really care? Your mind wandered around all the possibilities. However, every single time, you came up blank. On the walk back to your classroom, you told Adeline about your situation. "Why don't you just ask?" "What? No. You know what could happen if after school, when everyone's gone home, you could sneak into the classroom and look around. Maybe you can find some evidence and close up the gossip holes." You rolled your eyes and sighed. "But our gossip holes are the most popular column. Plus, I'd look like a total crazy person if I did that." You emphasized with your arms. "Well, it was just a suggestion. You have plenty of time to get that article done." I know. I just hope I meet my standards," you stated, and the deadline. Class went on with you trying to take your brain off what Adeline said, but it was all you could think of. Why couldn't you stop? And that boy circled your mind as well, along with those 2 girls who were showing off their knife holsters, and the teacher that was scolding them. Your mind favored the idea of sneaking around or just plainly asking them if the rumors were true. Yes, you couldn't get in trouble if you were just asking them some simple questions to clear things up with a gossip, right? If it was just a simple interview, it wouldn't hurt. And what if you were only talking to the teacher? More and more excuses piled up in your head, and finally you were able to rack your brain around a couple of possible, non-consequential answers. This is what you would do. Your plan was foolproof. You started jotting down questions after school and explained your plan to Mayra and Adeline. They both agreed that it was possible if you got caught, you would only be let off with a warning at most, though none of you were really sure as to how accurate your guesses were. While you were reciprocating all of the details, a certain sharpshooter could not seem to shoot straight anymore. Chiba had been having issues with aiming and locking on target. His friends noticed, especially the only other sharpshooter in his class. "Chiba, what's up with you? Your aim is off lately." It was only Tuesday, but Rinka Hayami had already picked up on her friend's aim loss. "It was a miss," was all he said before walking away. Chiba roamed around the woods for a bit before coming to a stop and leaning on a tree. He finally came to the conclusion that you were the explanation for his lack of skill lately. He only saw you once, but you couldn't have made more of an impact on him. Chiba was right. It truly was a miss. Something about you. Was it your flawless cheeks? Your crystal clear eyes? The way the light reflected over it, creating the perfect glossy shade. Maybe it was the way you had your hair, or the way you wore your uniform. Heck, maybe it was just the sight of you actually acknowledging 3E's existence. His only moral was, would you give him the time of day? Chiba, catch! The seriousness in the boy's personality deemed him too quiet for an actual conversation. Chiba looked up to see Karma throwing him a small candy. Though Chiba was startled by this, he caught the candy. I see you haven't lost your reflexes yet, Karma said with a small smile. He leaned on a tree branch not too far from where Chiba was. So, why are you sulking around in the woods? Karma asked nonchalantly, throwing his head back. I am conflicted, Karma. He responded with no pitch in his tone. It was dead silent for a few seconds. Then Karma responded as best as he could. Who is it? What? Chiba felt astonished that Karma already knew that much by one single statement. Is it Rinka? You two are the best sharpshooters in the class. It wouldn't surprise me if it was. No, it's not her. Oh? Karma tilted his head over to Chiba as a sudden interest popped into his brain. Are they even in 3E? Karma held the urge to smirk. Only if he was right would he then let it loose. But for now, that was unnecessary. Silence sprung through Karma's ears, letting him know that his assumption was, in fact, correct. Oh, he said, his grin stretching as he pressed into the tree branch, now leaning forwards, looking directly at Chiba. The boy was always as serious as a brick, and fun as one too. Well, in Karma's case, that wouldn't be entirely true. However, that is a story to be told another time. Chiba never really showed any interest in anything besides sharpshooting. Instead, the boy always showed stoic behavior. He was always so quiet, but now he can't even focus on aiming correctly, all because of you. Wednesday came and you were very much excited for your interview. At least, that's what you called it. Honestly, the only reason you were excited was because you were kind of going against your school rules. You would never be able to say it out loud, but you thought you were becoming kind of a rebel, like one of the main characters in a teen drama. Another reason you were so hooked on going to 3E after school was that you had a chance of running into that boy again. You were staring at him for what felt like forever, and for the life of you could not figure out why. However, this morning you had analyzed every single possible reason you could think of and decided that thinking he was cute was the most logical answer. You had never dated before, and you certainly were not going to now, but it would be fun to see him and maybe flirt a little. You knew he wasn't the flirty type just by analyzing him for a few minutes, so that meant you'd probably be doing all the flirting. But what you were thrilled for was seeing his face when you tried to hit on him. Truth be told, you were a bit nervous at what he would say or do, but it couldn't be that bad, right? Was your opinion. You strolled out of your final period and went straight to the paper room, where you and your team worked. Alright everyone, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna clear this gossip once and for all, you proudly stated. Yeah, just do us a favor and don't get caught. Louis, your fine person, replied, Oh, shut your trap, Louis, and focus on going over the prints for this week. I can't analyze anything until you complete your article. He'd throw an eraser at your head. Ow! You rubbed your head and angrily stomped out. They are such a handful. Louis sighed. Yeah, but we can't run without them. Adeline deadpanned. You made your way down the steps of Kunigagaoka's main campus hall and found yourself standing in front of an overly large hill. I want that story, right? I guess this is the way to do it. You sweat dropped, looking over the hill. You gulped loudly. Okay, here we go. By the time you reached Class 3E, most of the students had already wandered outside. They all stopped when they saw you walking forward, writing something in a notebook. Your hands were grasping the notebook lightly, and for a second you almost lost your balance. You caught yourself and looked up for the first time after starting your journey up the hill. More like a mountain, you thought as you looked around at each of the students. Is this what they have to go through every day? You wondered casually, watching their eyes linger on you. Once you made it inside, you heard most of the students chatter quietly to each other. You didn't see the boy you had went pro stalker on at the assembly, so you assumed he was still in the classroom. The thought of seeing him once again gave you butterflies. And who are you? The man you remember scolding the girls asked as you stepped through the doors. A few eyes of students who had yet to leave landed on yours as you walked over to one of the front seats and sat down. You looked up at the teacher in hand, then to your surprise, a squid thingy appeared at your left. You took a sharp breath inward before calming back down and explaining. Ah, I see. Well, I'd be happy to do an interview. You won't be doing anything. They can interview one of the students. The man you had come to know as Kurasuma-sensei said. Hey! The yellow squid named Kura-sensei pouted as he was being dragged away. I'd be happy to help you with your assignment. A voice from behind called. The butterflies in your stomach fluttered as you knew who was talking. You saw him earlier. He eyed you as you walked in. You glanced at him from the corner of your eye, but proceeded to talk to the teacher or teachers. You turned to Chiba, giving him a small smile, and nodded. Where should we go then? He asked. We could walk around the woods. I seen them when I was walking up that dreaded hill. You pointed with your thumb, making Chiba chuckle a little. This was not how you intended to talk to him, but it was something, and something is always better than nothing. Chiba's classmates watched as you walked out of the classroom and into the woods surrounding it. They had never seen Chiba so willingly talk to someone and show emotion. He was always so serious and usually always stoic. The fact that he was showing interest in anything was a sight to behold to his classmates and, of course, his teacher. Kuro-sensei followed the two of you and wrote down many things as you talked. You at first asked Chiba simple questions, and as such he responded. He then told you what you could and could not post because of his class being a sort of government top-secret experiment. You could tell he was keeping something from you, but you decided to not push it and eventually lost track of time as the subjects kept changing. It seemed like your conversation could go on for hours on end, and you wouldn't ever get bored. Sadly though, you did have to go as it was getting late, but that did not mean that you would stop contacting Chiba, and despite what everyone said, 3E was the complete opposite of it, is what you got from what Chiba had told you. Though he seemed like a trustworthy source, and technically the source did come from the heart of the gossip itself, so in all, they were technically facts. Wednesday night you spent writing your article for the gossip column. You made sure to include every factual detail that you could and disclose every factual detail that you had to keep secret. Thursday, you went to school ready to give your finished work to your editor and shove it in Louis' face that now he did have work. You also had the perfect image for what Meyer would be drawing for the new cover art. You told Adeline about what you and Chiba had talked about and said how you felt like instead of an interview, it felt more like a date. She was extremely happy for you, though she did point out how you might have to keep your relationship with the people from 3E a secret because of what the consequences might be. You understood where she was coming from and completely agreed, and whenever someone asked what or who your source was and where they came from, your answer was always spot on. It's a secret. You'd put your index finger to your lips and wink, then walk away. That became the thing students mostly knew you for. Secret one. You liked it, and it gave you a sense of true honor. Finally, Friday came, and it was time for you to publish your article. It is truly amazing what 1 week can bring. Okay, so I'm gonna read what I wrote at the bottom. I wrote, "Dang, I was so close. I finished at 3,002 words. I was going for 3,000, but whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed." Okay, so that is what I wrote. Excuse me. I hope you enjoyed this video, especially you, Akuma Mayu. Bye, loves!